So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is time for our first official check-in. That's right, with Danna Dennis representing Brooklyn, but more importantly, representing congestion pricing. Uh,
Not transit. I'm not just
oh,
congestion pricing. I'm having
and
all things
transit.
up
In
to
transit.
us. Yes,
Yes, but you are one of the original advocates for congestion pricing. Yes.
I am, and close to a decade of working on this. Yeah, 8 years of investment of time, energy, a lot of fighting lately, a lot of wins too, highs and lows. And so I'm here to represent this program once again and talk about some of the things we've seen in the last 6 months, which
So
is
I just want to as we have these conversations, because I hopefully we will have this the first. We said we would come back to you after a few months and we would check in and get a read on how things are going. I want to maintain I'm for congestion pricing. I do not mind paying the extra money if the money actually ends up going to the trains in an expeditious, timely fashion, useful
I'm with you.
fashion.
I'm with you on that. That's going to be the part that hopefully we'll get into today. Like, what do riders need to do right now in this moment to hold elected officials accountable around like the funding? Because that's the biggest part, right? Like, we need to see tangible evidence that it's working.
And I don't want to hear about consultants. I don't want to hear us spending hundreds of millions of dollars to hire somebody who has a company to do a report on for us to figure out. It's like, bruh, we don't know what we need already and we don't have this figured out. Like, why are we even collecting money?
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. That's certainly not where we need to put the funding. I'm always going to be for that. Like, no offense to consultants. I'm sure you do what you do, but there is so much that we can invest in, like, again, tangible results on everyday folks.
So first things first, Danna, how much money has been collected by the MTA, or what is it? Is it the state or the MTA that's collecting on congestion pricing?
It's both. It's the state and the MTA. It's a state-ran program, state-funded agency. So they don't function fully independent. It is invested through the state, and the governor holds that budget. So every year. So we're just in budget season now. We're just coming out of the state. Last I checked, we're over 50 million. And so it has been doing pretty well in terms of funding. But again, I think that's hard to measure, right? Because folks want to hear the dollar amount. They're like, how much are they getting? Where is it going? That's where I think we need to talk about it.
Well,
like,
yeah, we'll get to the where is it going piece. I just want to do this in chunks, so I'm hopefully people can follow along. So
yeah, but
first, so far, over 50 million has been collected.
that is correct.
The projection annually is to collect how much?
So annually, and remember, we had a cut in the $15 mark. So originally it would have been $15 per vehicle going in. We are at $9, but they still believe that even with the bonded out amounts, we can hit the projected cost, which is 15 billion over 10 years. So roughly around 1 billion, 1.2 per year. Yeah.
So $1 billion a year will be collected on congestion pricing is the plan. Right now, the reports we're hearing are buses are running on time and even early, and that's been phenomenal.
Yes.
We're hearing that businesses in the congestion pricing zone are still doing very well. We're hearing that overall congestion and traffic has improved. Are those the correct headlines?
All of those things. Yeah, business is up, school buses are moving faster. We're even hearing like trafficking tickets are down, parking violations are down, crash injuries are down, right? Like, that's a big part of it. Air pollution, we have not been, it's too soon still to like figure out what that's going to look like. But I do know that the MTA itself is reporting on like the air quality control. Folks are doing independent studies as well. So that's something we're excited to hear about. I don't work on the environmental protection aspect, but as a whole, the Congestion Pricing Now coalition monitors all three aspects, right?
Has there been any measurement of the impact on traffic, businesses, and neighborhoods outside of the congestion zone? Meaning, is the Deegan worse? Is South Bronx worse? Are the boroughs, the BQE worse? Like, are these things worse now because people are avoiding
So
60
there
and
is
below.
measurements happening outside of the zones, right? So like right past any bridges or tunnels, there is measurements even here. Like, I'm representing Brooklyn always, but I'm a displaced New Yorker. So I'm someone who's recently had to like be priced out because of a whole nother issue on housing in New Jersey. So on this side of the tunnel, even when I was fighting for congestion pricing, I knew I'd be eventually moving here. But this side of the tunnel, they're looking into that. They're looking into the Brooklyn Bridge, which I'm in New York every single week, not only working there, but my family's there. Looking at Queens and the bridges, right? Like what's happening uptown right above the zones. So those are questions that constantly come up and that we get. And we're hearing like on major corridors like Flatbush Avenue, right across the Manhattan Bridge, going down Atlantic Avenue, right? Like major arteries across the city where folks are trying to plug into the zone that is also functioning well, as well as the FDR, right? Because that was a big question. Folks who are
Right.
coming in across some of these bridges, if you get directly onto the FDR, as we know, you are not charged a toll. We're also seeing that traffic is down in those areas as well.
So now let's move to next steps. So we're looking at $1 billion each year. It's not as if the money, I don't know, between collection and disbursement towards a project. What is there a window of time that we should expect? Like, oh, they collected 50 million. They're going to start spending on that 50 million in when? Or do they have to
So,
wait the entire year, collect, and then the following year they spend? How does this happen?
no, they need to start spending immediately. So there's a
Okay.
backlog, unfortunately, always. And I'm not going to defend that and why that is happening. That is
Backlog
something.
of what exactly?
So of the
Repairs?
capital plan projects. So every 5 years, before we had dedicated revenue, which congestion pricing is now dedicated revenue to the capital plan, there are two budgets every single year. And the budgets are the operating costs. Again, this is the money that goes towards like salary. It goes towards running the trains and buses. It goes towards folks' pension. All of these things are the operating costs to keep the system going, right? And then you have the capital projects. The problem is every 5 years we get a new capital plan. So we were just coming out of the 2020 to 2024 plan, and that plan is still wrapping up. There are a ton of projects that still need to be done. We didn't get enough elevators in that project. We didn't complete the Second Avenue line. So you now have restoration to the Second Avenue line on the Q train. But if you live in Harlem, you're not getting that service, right? So folks are still walking over from like Fifth and Sixth Avenue, and there is no subway in that area. So that's something we're looking forward to.
So hang on right there. So that second line capital plan and those elevators are backlogged.
Yes, elevators, signal system. We have an outdated signal system. We're in 2025. We have a signal system that our subways currently run on most of our lines right now from 1930s. So they're doing patchwork, right? It's like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole, and
So
we weren't getting real improvements.
so the money that's collected right now is going to go directly to those items because those are the items at the forefront.
Yes. So the money that's being collected, we also had this year more investment into our budget. So in addition to congestion pricing, there was still a budget line item in the current state budget, right? It had to happen because we hadn't collected enough yet. And so there was still 68 billion that was put in an investment on top of this program to make sure that those backlog items happen. Now, this funding that's coming in can go to all of the dedicated projects that go beyond that. And that new plan was just approved at the top of this year, and it's for 2025 to 2029. I don't know if they'll continue on with the every 5 years now that we have dedicated revenue, but that's the way that it has been going for decades.
And just a quick review for the audience and everybody following along, because the way a lot of people's brains work are, you collected money, what are you fixing? All of the in-between talk of, backlog, people ain't trying to hear all that.
I'm with you.
You took money out my pocket. We fix elevators when? That's how people's brains work.
I feel. So in the current plan, and I'm with you as an advocate. Again, I do not work for.
No, I hear you. I'm just trying to keep this talk clean and not because you're used to talking in the meetings with the people, and this is how y'all talk. I'm used to talking to people who go, I paid $5
Yeah.
Where's my sandwich?
Yes, I'm in the field too. I was on Church and Flatbush for
No, I
almost 2
understand. I
hours last
understand.
night.
I paid $9. Where's my sandwich?
I
pay
paid
every day.
$9.
Every
Where's
day.
my
Where's my
gyro?
sandwich?
That's literally how I feel. Where are our sped up buses? Where
Right.
are, less frequency on the train? Where are our elevators? The things that we're paying for, right? Because folks can't see that you painted the bridge, which
That's
is
right.
the important thing. We need to repair bridges and tunnels, but that isn't always a tangible result that trickles down to riders. What is happening right now is that there's over 60 elevators that are supposed to be put in, right? In the last plan, we're still looking at over 40. So there are, in the new plan coming up, we're looking at over 65 fully ADA stations, which is important.
That's right.
Because we're almost 30
People on
plus years.
wheelchairs, elderly, they can't hit them steps, man. They need that elevator.
Mobility concern is a big thing. As a parent of 2 toddlers, I shouldn't have to, constantly look for my partner to have to carry my stroller down the steps, right?
Listen, I'm a big supporter of people who suffer from mental health and the people who are houseless and all that. But no peeing and sleeping on the elevators, y'all. Come on, man. Listen, we need the elevators, fam.
Don't get me started on that. That's another policy that we need to hold our elected officials, accountable for. We need new, stronger policies around the unhoused community, right? Like, we're talking about mental health. I know folks get, I hear it all the time in all my meetings. Folks are like, well, what are you guys going to do? Because we have this large homeless population on the subway. That's important, and we need to talk to that. But that is a symptom of a larger problem.
Right.
What the problem is that we keep having elected officials and policy makers who are sitting in positions of power, and they don't understand the on-the-ground needs of New Yorkers. And hopefully we'll get into that in a minute, and how we're recently just launching a new political arm, but we're in an election season. We don't need another mayor to come into New York, or governor, or anyone else who does not get what New Yorkers need, right? And so I know New Yorkers get upset. Folks are like, that's not the cart I want to be on. Listen, you're on that cart for 20, 30 minutes. This person has probably been in the house for years. What are policymakers doing for that community and that population?
Right. Yeah, well, and the more we can do for them, the more they get out these elevators and the more they stop sleeping on things. So, but now, so we got 60 plus elevators. We got 60 plus elevators going in. What time frame are we looking at? Should we expect this work to be done?
So all of the plans are stated over a 5-year block. The important part for us is that we have to make sure that, and when I say we, I'm talking specifically to myself and everyone else who wants to join me. Because again, I'm holding meetings every month. I'm rallying almost every month. I'm going to every single board meeting that I can go to. That's city council, that is MTA board meetings. So I'm hoping that folks will come out to these hearings with me, or come with me to Albany or City Hall, wherever I'm going to be, right? So as an organizer, it's important to make sure that they are staying on task with these plans. The plans are always, the way that they dish them out currently, are in a 5-year block.
But we can't do anything. We can't. There's nobody saying it shouldn't take us 5 years to replace elevators, or will these fixes happen in concurrently? Like, yes, they're working on elevators, and they're going to start working on the signal stuff simultaneously, and they're going to start, you know what I mean? Like, as the money comes in.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I think the part of, getting into the details is really where, we're trying to go with our next steps, is having those deeper meetings of okay, what are you actually doing? What can I bring back to riders, to people who I've asked to stand with me, stand with Riders Alliance, and say, this is where we are, right? Like, this is something that we're supporting. So those details are the same details that I'm looking for. I won't tell you right now that I currently have all of those. I think a lot of the, the rhetoric amongst the land has been let's get the funding first. Because as you know, we've had several attacks, right?
That's right.
We've had the state halt the program. We've recently had come after us. Yes, as of just 48 hours ago, we had a judge that stood up and said, I'm not going to deal with the bullying coming out of Washington, D.C. I'm actually going to do the right thing. This is a positive program. But that's not something that we're seeing, right? We are seeing attacks on many progressive programs. And with those attacks, we don't always have, the judicial system to back us up and say, hey, this is actually a law. Congestion pricing is a law. It was passed in 2019. It's here. And so I think a lot of the focus for advocates like myself have been, let's just make sure we can secure this program and secure the funding. Now, I think for years, it has always still been what is going to happen. For me personally, and for Riders Alliance, not only do we want to see these projects, but we want to see an investment specifically in marginalized communities, all right? there are areas that we know you need to start with first. There
That's
are
right.
stations, bus stops, neighborhoods that we can go into right now and see you have not invested in this neighborhood in 30, 40 plus years.
Yep.
So it would be great to start there. Start in the South.
So Danna, so the focus has been collecting the money. So now the money's being collected. Now the next step is the action items. You said there's a backlog, so we're going to get hit with the headlines that they're going to deal with the backlog, the 2-line. They're going to deal with the elevators, and then after that, we're not quite sure where this goes.
Yeah, I think after that, we are going to make sure that they continue to do. Hopefully, at that point, we can shift to annual, right? Like if we have dedicated funding and there's no more like,
This
no
whole
one's paid
5-year plan thing is out the window. Now there's a line item for this money every year versus trying to find money through budget cycles, right? So for the audience to understand, there was no budget, money budgeted specifically for improvements. Money had to be found to make improvements.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, people have just washed their hands with it. Like the governors currently, formerly, we've seen folks say, like, this is not even on me. I don't have anything to do.
But it is, though. 50% of the money comes from the state.
Yeah, it's like, are you serious? You're the one who actually decides. The governor has the most appointees, and the mayor has some seats as well on the MTA board, right? So you're appointing board members, you are over the budget, you are investing money, you are deciding contracts for workers, you are deciding pension status. No, this is definitely going to be something that's on the state. And still currently, we are requiring a lot of the city as well. The city may not be over the budget, but the mayor decides where bus lanes goes. The mayor decides stuff around our actual, shelters, how the streets runs. They have to work with the DOT. So there are different levels of government that have to be all over this. And then there's also 10% that is going to the Metro North, and then 10% that is also going to be going to Long Island Railroad. So that's right. Those are still state entities, but we have to make sure that they're getting their just due as well.
So Danna, with this election coming up, I know I'm moving fast and trying to keep this to the top line items just so people can understand what to listen for and look for. And then now it's going to be about what election. And it seems like no matter whether we've had mayors I've liked or mayors I've disliked, everyone seems to be mostly on the same page with improving the subway system.
I hope so. You think so?
It seems. I'm just saying it seems on the outside. I'm not all the way in. I just know what I hear. I don't love Adams, but it seems like he wants to improve, the way the MTA functions and keep the subways clean and safe, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. De Blasio was there. Bloomberg was there. That's the rhetoric they spew. I'm not in the weeds on it, so I don't really know what the actual work that's being done. So I would assume that whoever comes on board as mayor in this next cycle would love the fact that there is a budget line, to actually create improvements. How they prioritize those improvements, like you just said a second ago, making sure that underserved communities get these services that they're not getting, and the money's not just going to the rich areas of town.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Okay, so first of all, the audacity of anyone to run and not talk about transit in New York City, right? You cannot be a New York City mayor and not care about subway and bus riders. It is the lifeblood of our city. It is important that you care about transit, right? Because the majority of us, whether you own a vehicle or not, you are taking transit at some point, or you've formally taken it. So you get the woes. And we need elected officials that get that. We need elected officials that have waited 20 plus minutes for a bus in the rain, in the snow, in the cold, so they can understand what that looks like in real time. We need folks that have had delays on the subway, or maybe even a mobility concern and needed an elevator. Maybe they have an aging parent, or they have children, or they have, some type of injury. That needs to happen.
You want somebody that's empathetic, that understands.
Yeah, you need to be empathetic with that budget and every policy that you put forward, right? And you need to understand the intersectionality of other issues that you care about, because if you are someone who is mostly transit dependent, whether you are fighting to afford the fare and come up with the 290, or you are waiting to get around in the majority of your commute in transit, you are probably also someone who is struggling to pay the rising cost of rent in New York, right? Or you might be like myself, who could barely afford it and was like, oh, I have to actually get out of here in the city that I was born and raised in and love. You might be a person who is struggling to pay childcare. Like, why is childcare on a lottery system? We need to secure like pre-K and 3K for, parents in our city right now. So there are a lot of things, healthcare, all of those things are at the intersection. And I will say currently in our mayor, like, with Adams, he's someone that as borough president, I saw such great things and commitments out of him. But as a current mayor, and I'm only talking about transit, so do not start attacking me. I don't care who you all vote for, who you love. That is great.
The attacks are coming, Danna. Don't even worry about it. You want to do this work, the attacks is coming for you.
Listen, I'm going to talk about the details of transit, and I dare you to challenge those things. How about that?
That's right.
With transit, Mayor Adams literally had a law, right? The streets plan that was actually established under the de Blasio administration. He was supposed to put in, right, like over 100 bus miles per his 4-year term. He did not do that. Actually, every single year we were seeing like less than 10 miles across the city. So that's number one. After he said he would be the bus mayor, right? Like he would actually understand bus riders. There are things that we needed that
deliver.
he stopped and halted.
Big surprise.
Let's talk about Fordham Road. You have over 85,000 bus riders that access Fordham Road in the Bronx every single day, right? And like he halted it because you're talking about rich folks. You have Westchester, like literally investors in Westchester that came out, the businesses said, no, we don't need this. When in fact, when you talk to riders on Fordham, and we were out there for almost a year talking to riders every single week, who were like, we absolutely need bus service to be sped up in Fordham. We saw it on McGinnis, we saw it in Ashley Place. That's just Mayor Adams. Then you want to talk about front runners in this election, right? We have former Governor Cuomo, who is running, right? Andrew Cuomo's running, and we have seen him perform in transit spaces before. And what did we get? Under congestion pricing, which he started to champion after a while and actually was the one who passed the law, he fought us on the back end around the lockbox. The lockbox bill in 2019 is the bill that actually makes sure that no one can raid this funding. So you talk about raising $50 million and making sure we get tangible results on congestion pricing. Oh. That's the law that says that.
Oh, that's the one. That's the focus. Danna, F everything you're talking about.
Well,
that's the focus right there, because anytime money gets collected, if there's not a protection for that money, they're going to come and take that money and figure out a way to siphon it off to their consultant buddies, themselves, and other projects, and not do the improvement.
And we saw that. So we saw that in 2019. Like he vetoed it. When I say unanimously, both parties in the state, across the Assembly and the Senate, all voted for the lockbox. We had to bring it back again a second year in a row. And finally, in the final hour, I forgot what day, but it was very late in the year, he signed the lockbox bill. And that wasn't necessarily because he wanted to do it. That was probably just because of political will and pressure. Like we pushed for that, right? We had to say, we're not going to pass this if you don't give us the lockbox bill. It was hard to fight for congestion pricing back then. And then just going on to some of the current folks. So now you have all these folks who are like out here, who are progressive on transit. They've been doing things, and a lot of riders don't know about them. Like people are talking about Zoran Mandami.
You're speaking about Zoran.
Yes, not just Zoran. Zoran is amazing, and I hope that folks continue to look into his history. I say that as someone who's seen him as an assembly member in the last couple of years, who has pushed and been progressive. We got a free bus pilot, a free bus in all 5 boroughs because of him. He helped us fight for 6-minute service, which improved frequency, across 8 different lines across the subway. Like that was huge, right? Just 2 years ago, we were able to do that because of him. We also have the most powerful person in the city council, like Speaker Adams, no relation to Mayor Adams, right? Speaker Adrienne Adams, who's out of Queens.
Adrienne Adams.
She has been fantastic. Her office has been able to work with me for the last 2 years to improve Fair Fares, which is our discounted Metro cards for low-income riders. She put in an additional $20 million into the budget for Fair Fares and has solely championed that program. Like she's been going at it with the mayor to make sure that we get improvements. We're still fighting for Fair Fares to be increased to 200% of the federal poverty line. And we need that. And if there's a mayor coming into office and they don't understand that we need improvements on these programs, it's just like, you've got to see that, everything for what it is. So that's where we are right now. We have a couple
I
of
think it's
people.
clear. You have two candidates. You have two candidates are very much for the people: Adrian Adams, City Council, and Zoran
We
Mamdani,
got a few more too. We
clearly
got
for the
Zelma
people. And then you
Myrie.
have two candidates in
I
and
was just
shout to
gonna say,
Zelnor Myrie as well.
yeah, we have Brad
And
Lander,
then you
who's
have Lander, and then also Stringer.
yeah, and Jessica Ramos too, who's a senator out of Queens, right? Like you talk about the housing fight and the food insecurity fight, she's championed those programs. So I'm not saying all those folks are going to be front runners. I'm saying that it's important as organizers and folks who are in this work every day that we bring this back to the community. Folks need to make an informed decision. Gone are the days that we go, oh, this is just, these folks look like me, or these folks are from my neighborhood, or that is not enough. That is not enough. You need to really be, and if Washington, D.C. has shown us anything, right? Here on the city level, we know that you need to be looking into policies. You need to make sure that folks align with where you are. So I don't care what it is. If it's not transit and you have an immigration fight, if you are fighting, eviction and to cover your rent, where do these candidates align with those issues? I think we're not doing enough to make sure that, folks are really running and look into their history. The benefit is right now we have folks who are currently in office.
Well, I don't think the average voter, based on habits and based on what I've seen in voting cycles, I don't think the average voter unfortunately, the capacity to digest all of the information we would love for them to digest. They are going to work. They are, taking care of their families and kids, and trying to figure it out. And when it comes time for election, we hit them with a lot of information a short period of time and expect them to really, really be able to digest it all and apply it to their life.
Yeah, I agree. I think we definitely require a lot of voters. And I know that most of us are at work, we're working 2-3 jobs, we have families, we can't get to a lot of these forums. Right now, we're going on the ranked choice voting, right? So you are able to choose 5 candidates. You can rank them however you want. I hope that folks are not ranking current Mayor Adams and former Governor Andrew Cuomo, but that's their choice. Folks are going to rank who they want. I'm just saying, let's look at the facts. And actually, when we speak on Cuomo, just to be honest, people felt a lot of comfort in what the governor did, especially at the height of the pandemic. We cannot take that away from him. There were some really great things in how he informed the nation and stepped up as a governor and really led the people of America. That means something. I'm never going to say that it didn't even personally bring me comfort.
I mean, he made some mistakes, though.
Yeah. And when we talk about transit,
I'm
bringing it back to what we see on transportation. So what does that look like in real time? That looks like a person who, did not do well, really.
Well, he definitely wasn't advocating for protecting the money.
Protecting the money, and then also taking that money and turning it into funding for aggressive policing policy. And I'm not going against police. We need police. There are a lot of instances where I'm going to call 911 in my life. But
one thing we're not going to get from Adams and Cuomo is one thing I don't think we'll get from Adams or Cuomo, and I'm talking about Mayor Eric Adams or Cuomo, is holding police accountable.
Yeah, I mean, folks are going to say, well, we need that right now, right? There is a mode of folks feeling unsafe on transit spaces. I'm not going to tell anybody what unsafe feels like to them, especially as a Black woman, right? There are instances where I ride transit and I'm like, this feels unsafe. What I will say is, how does that play out? If we are putting stronger policing policies in place. Again, what is the tangible evidence of that? What we don't want to see is 4, 5, 6 police officers standing around turnstiles, right? And that is criminalizing crime of poverty. It's I don't have $2.90 and there's a real crime taking place right now down on the platform or actually on the train. Does that transfer into ridership and riders feeling safe? Right? Or do I just feel intimidated because now I can't get my MetroCard? These 2 machines behind me don't work. And, I'm trying to figure out how I get in. And I'm not saying folks don't need to pay. I'm not saying folks are not out here not paying. Please pay your fare if you can. But also understand that there are a lot of other things that are playing out in that rider's life that may not give them that $2.90.
I wish people cared as much as we wanted them to. Let me say this. There's a lot who do. There's not enough. It's
No,
not enough for people who care about the details.
well, I mean, again, we need policymakers that do that. We need that both at the state level and the city level. We've
That's
seen
right.
the governor and the mayor champion this recently. And, their numbers show themselves. If you look at NYPD numbers, right, 10 years ago in 2015, the overtime for transit police was $27,000. If you look at the most recent numbers in 2023, we spent over $66 million in policing overtime. What is that? We went from not being able to find an officer to maybe finding a few to now you're seeing several. And in certain areas, let me be honest, right? Like not in all areas. And we all know what that looks like. And then again, that doesn't transfer to you actually being where the crime is taking place. If there's a crime, so it's just, it has to make sense. What could we do with
Well,
66
listen,
million?
Cuomo and Adams are going to throw more money at the cops. So if that's your choice and that's what you're into, that's what you're going to get over there. The councilwoman Adrienne Adams and Councilman Zoran Mamdani, they're definitely going to move to hold the richest of New York City accountable and taxing and moving some of that money over to help the more disenfranchised and vulnerable communities. That's on their platforms. Like you could read that on their websites. And I'm for that, and they're also for working people, right? And so in a city where you have a mass amounts of working people and a disproportionate rich population, people of the past, mayors of the past, have always been afraid to tax the billionaires because they fear that they're going to just move out of the city, right? Like that's what they pump, that they're going to leave New York.
Mm-hmm. What about the working
I don't
class
believe that to be true, but listen.
Yes, people like myself making less than $100,000 a year. We're the ones moving out. My husband was like, "We have to get out. We can't afford, $2,000 plus for childcare,
That's right.
$3,000 for rent, and all the other costs of the city." And I was.
But I tell you what, the rich people want the rich people want regular folk like yourself gone. Like, make no mistake, they don't want to make it easy.
And Texas said they're full too. We cannot all move to the South, and we don't want to. We should. My kids need block parties and bodegas too. I need them to have all the things that I grew up with right here in New York City, right? I'm still working here. I'm here every day, and I want them to have that. But the reality is we can't afford it. That's it. It's become a tale of
Danna, so for this first update on congestion pricing, what we know right now is $50 million has been collected, and the priority will be subway line 2, elevators, and changing these old signals that have been operating since the 1930s. Those are the backlog of capital improvements that have been waiting to be funded. And you say there's $68 billion that was already allocated into the budget from some of this backlog as a part of the 5-year budget cycle. And then we're supposed to get another $1 billion this year. So hopefully these improvements, we start to hear about them and see them in short order in the next several months.
We need them immediately. I will say that. We need to see aggressive, changes as it comes to accessibility. Like we need elevators ASAP. That is like default for me.
Are you going to be able to see a lot of the data? Like, are you going to be able to see when the actual money is getting put to use? Like you work in this space, will you be able to see like, okay, plans are for the Q train, plans are for with dates. Will you able to be, are you going to have access to that information?
That I certainly demand. Yeah, I ask for that constantly to see what is happening. Where is this being spent? That's something that you'll see us going to the hearings and asking for. Any meetings that we are able to have with the MTA, we ask them for that kind of stuff. There is, a few things posted on their website, but again, we want like those actual details. As Ebro said, we don't want to just see like what's being paid out to consultants. So will we be able to see as advocates? We certainly don't always have a right to it. I'll say that. But we ask for it. We're the public. We should be able to see. These are, again, our tax dollars. I think, again, going back to how folks are educated in a civic position, we don't always realize that we should require this around all policies because your money is actually going towards this.
Well, thank you, Danna Dennis, for your time. We're going to circle up with you in the next 3 months. And we may just be emailing you periodically because, this is a hot topic in the city. And I want to be able to deliver some very concrete details to people. It seems like today there's kind of like a how do I say? It looks like we're circling around some concrete details, but we don't have them yet.
Yeah,
Like I think the public needs to hear, oh, y'all collected 50 million. We getting new elevators on this date. You know what I'm saying? I feel like, with the bureaucracy at the city and state level, you kind of get these roundabout talks, but you don't get actual, boom, we've started working on the elevators because we collected $50 million. Boom, we're going to do these signals in this time frame because we collected this money. Like, I don't think, even me, and I'm trying to keep up with it.
Yeah.
It's not clear. I don't mind paying the extra. I travel into the city every day. So I'm basically, and by every day, I mean damn near 7 days a week. So, and I'm driving. So I'm paying $3,000 a year. Right?
Okay.
So that's an extra $3,000 a year. I don't mind. I don't mind paying as long as I know it's going to help the people who actually need these trains. I don't mind coughing up that money. That's cool. But if I'm not getting clarity, and most of the issue that people have with congestion pricing is the fact that historically the MTA has botched money and the city is not good at giving transparency. Anybody I talk to that's got a few dollars in their pocket that's like, yo, I love the traffic flow and I love it, but they not spending that money to improve the trains. That's immediately the next thought.
I'm with them on that. Historically, they have robbed us and done us wrong. That's why I need more folks to stand with me and make sure that they're going to do us right. So hopefully in the next couple of months, I'll be able to bring back, this is what's being done and this is when it's being done. And we all continue to watch and make sure we hold them accountable. Thank you.
And by the way, you could text us and call us anytime.
Thank you.
You could hit me at 6 a.m. like, yo, I got an update. I left a meeting last night and they doing elevators tomorrow.
I will make sure to get it to you all so we can get it to the public. Folks, continue to hold them accountable. We're right. Thank you all.